You're watching News Central now on News Central TV. I'm Darshan Usman. The top stories this hour. Military says it will reintegrate surrendering bandits as it intensifies its crackdown on Lakurawa in the northwest. Several insurgents killed as Malian army captures top Islamic State leader. Mozambique opposition leader threatens nationwide disorder over disputed poll results. Details shortly. Let's begin by telling you that the Nigerian Military High Command has announced plans to reintegrate surrendering bandits and terrorists in the northwest. Now, this comes as special forces have been deployed to combat the Lakurawa terrorist group operating in the region. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, disclosed this as part of efforts to neutralize the threat posed by Lakurawa and other criminal elements in the northwest. The deployment follows a deadly attack by the Lakurawa group on a community in Kebbi State in November, which claimed 17 lives. The initiative, tagged Operation Safe Corridor Northwest, is designed to rehabilitate and reintegrate repentant bandits into society. It mirrors the Operation Safe Corridor Northeast program launched in 2015 to de-radicalize, rehabilitate, and reintegrate former Boko Haram insurgents. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, has assured Nigerian Army personnel of his commitment to lead by example, promising that his words will always match his actions. General Oluyede made the pledge on Monday at the opening ceremony of the 2004 Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference held at the Army Headquarters Command Officers Mess in Abuja. Now, in his address, the Army Chief paid tribute to the late Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tarid Lagbaja, who had initially planned the conference before his passing. During the event, the Chief of Army Staff also presented life insurance checks to the next of kin of personnel who paid the ultimate sacrifice in service to the nation. Additionally, he handed over Hilux vehicles to regimental sergeant majors as part of efforts to enhance operational efficiency.
To this end, I shall lead by example, and my words will be my bound. I urge you to engage actively with your troops, ensuring that they are all motivated, prepared, and ready to take challenges head-on. Remember, as leaders, we must embody decisive action and set good examples that inspire the force.
On security matters, the Police Service Commission on Monday approved the promotion of 27 senior police officers, including 11 commissioners of police, elevated to the rank of Assistant Inspectors General, and 16 deputy commissioners of police promoted to substantive commissioners of police. Now, the newly promoted officers appeared at the Commission's corporate headquarters on Monday, 16th December, where they underwent both written and oral examinations as part of the selection process. PSC Chairman, retired DIG Hashimu Argungu, announced that written or oral assessments would henceforth be mandatory for promotions across all ranks in the Nigerian police force. Away from that, the Federal Executive Council has approved a 47.9 trillion naira budget proposal to be presented to the National Assembly for approval. FEC, during its final meeting of the year 2024, also approved free train rides for citizens from December 20th this year as part of federal government support for citizens traveling for the Christmas and New Year festivities. Amadin Uyi reports.
In attendance were cabinet ministers. The meeting, the last for the year 2024, is expected to commence its recess for members from December the 18th to January the 6th, 2025. Following deliberations at the meeting, the Minister of Information and National Orientation informed newsmen of President Tinubu's approval for free train services for citizens nationwide.
Government is also happy to announce that, as we did last year, there will be free train service to all Nigerians from the 20th up until the 5th of January. Free train service nationwide.
Also, the Minister of Education gave details of the Council's approval for the change of name for the University of Abuja.
At a Federal Executive Council meeting, Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu graciously moved a motion for FEC approval for the renaming of University of Abuja to Yakubu Gowon University, Abuja. This was Mr. President's motion, and this was moved in recognition of General Yakubu Gowon's contribution to the stability of our country in upholding our federalism.
One of the core highlights of the meeting was the approval of a 47.9 trillion naira 2025 budget for the nation and upgrade of several electricity substations as part of the Siemens electricity project.
The 2025 framework is based on a benchmark, oil price benchmark of $75 per barrel, oil production of 2.06 million barrels per day, exchange rate of 1,400 naira.
This budget is based on government spending in critical areas, but also, more importantly, encouraging and making room for private sector investment.
Executive Council meeting held this afternoon. There were basically two approvals for the Federal Ministry of Power as presented. The first was actually an approval for the award of contracts for engineering, procurement, construction, and financing for the implementation of the 330, 132 kV and 132, 33 kV substations upgrade under the phase 1 of the Presidential Power Initiative, popularly known as the Siemens contract.
The 2025 budget proposal is based on an oil price benchmark of $75 per barrel at 2.06 million barrels per day and 1,400 naira per dollar. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Now, in the meantime, President Bola Tinubu's presentation of the 47.9 trillion naira 2025 budget proposal to the joint session of the National Assembly, initially scheduled for Tuesday, 17 December, has been postponed to Wednesday, 18 December. Now, according to Senate sources, the rescheduling was confirmed by a senior management official of the National Assembly. We also understand that an official statement regarding the postponement is expected shortly. The proposed budget is part of the 2025-2027 medium-term expenditure framework approved by the Federal Executive Council last month. Now, the framework includes plans for 9.22 trillion naira in new borrowing to address the budget deficit. It also sets an oil price benchmark of $75 per barrel, a daily production target of 2.06 million barrels, and an exchange rate of 1,400 naira to the dollar. And let's also tell you that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has achieved a significant milestone by arresting 792 suspects linked to cryptocurrency investment fraud and romance scams. Speaking at a press briefing on Monday at the Commission's Lagos office, EFCC Director of Public Affairs Wilson Ojon said the suspects were apprehended during a surprise operation conducted on Tuesday, 10th December. The raid targeted a hideout in Victoria Island, Lagos. Ojon said the operation followed months of surveillance and actionable intelligence on the syndicate's activities. Among the suspects arrested were 148 Chinese nationals, 40 Filipinos, 2 individuals from Kazakhstan, 1 Pakistani, and 1 Indonesian. The EFCC added that Nigerian accomplices were recruited by foreign masterminds to execute phishing schemes targeting unsuspected victims across the US, Canada, Mexico, and several European countries. To discuss this, we're joined by a public affairs analyst, Doon Ojon. Thank you so much for joining us, Doon, on the news. Now, can you tell us, if you can hear me, how significant, the arrest of 792 suspects in the fight against financial crimes, is, particularly as regards, the romance and cryptocurrency scams, in Nigeria?
It is extremely significant, not just because it's a fight against crime. It's also one of those things that you need to do as a country to continue to polish your image within the Committee of Nations. And repeatedly, we've known that one of the things that some of these foreigners do is to look for a soil where some of their criminal activities can actually grow. And it's understandable why they're choosing Nigeria, because anywhere you get to, there's this reputational damage that we have. A lot of people will tell you that, oh, Nigeria is actually a good place, but within the commendation is also the constraint that they always have whenever they want to do business with you, which is as a product of the fact that our perception has been a bit here and there in the past few years. And it's not a product of what Nigerians did or what they did not do. It's actually a product of the fact that many people are actually hiding under the umbrella of being a Nigerian to perpetrate crime and put the nation in a bad light. So it's extremely significant. This is one of the things that we must continue to do as a nation, to show that we are serious, not just against the fight, serious about the fight against corruption, but also serious about the fact that we want to create the best image for our nation. And we will do everything possible to ensure that anyone that is perpetrating evil in the disguise of being a Nigerian is fished out and possibly punished.
All right, Doctor. Now, what do these arrests actually reveal about, the level of foreign involvement in cybercrime operations within Nigeria?
We have said it repeatedly. I have been at fora where we laid emphasis on the fact that, see, if you want to grow a crop, and it's as simple as that, this analogy, if you want to grow a crop, they call something in agriculture shifting cultivation. The idea is for you to identify, if you put one crop here this year, next year when you want to plant it, you go to another soil to actually go plant it. It is about identifying a place where your trade or your crop will do well. And that's exactly what these foreigners do, a lot of them. And you come across them daily without knowing. All of them stroll around the street of Lagos now, you see them, and you can assume that they have credible businesses. But until we continue to profile people the exact same way they do for Nigerians abroad, we will not get to ending criminality, because it's very easy for you as government of people across the board to just think that every crime that is linked to Nigeria is actually committed by Nigerians. In fact, we've had an instance, I will remind you of an instance where some people were arrested, and a Ghanaian actually lied that he was a Nigerian until perhaps he was deported or something. So people come and hide under the reputational damage that we already have.
Okay, Doctor. Now, this operation actually apparently followed months of surveillance and also actionable intelligence. And we know that there's been so many negative news about the EFCC, in previous times. But what does this say about the EFCC's current capacity to combat organized cybercrime?
EFCC has never lacked the capacity to actually combat crime under any guise. The issue that people have with EFCC is that most of the times their approach to solving issues or even arresting often comes political. And a country that is heavily political, people can continue to read political meaning to everything that is done by agency of government. And these are some of the things that, because in public communication, you do not just speak, you also try as much as possible to allow your action to speak. This is one of the things that we have said continually about EFCC, that majority of the problems that we have in Nigeria that can be combated without linking politics to it, if we pay attention to it, then we'll be solving crime a great deal. If they pay attention to solving this issue of people hiding under the identity of Nigerians, of people scamming, of people even selling the identity of Nigerians, you will see that they will be popular, and most especially if they rely on credible intelligence. We've had an issue in Asaba lately of the Nigerian police just entering a house, and they busted the house, and they discovered that at the end of the day, they were credible men and women living there. That can continue to give you bad image. So this is the place of intelligence. Unfortunately, if the people do not trust you, they will not be able to release information to you. So we believe that with this kind of arrest, it will build a communal trust capacity in the community, and people will be willing to actually give credible intelligence.
Speaking of, the arrests and the fact that, most of these people were actually foreigners, we've had 148 Chinese nationals, 40 Filipinos, and other foreign suspects, arrested. Do you think that this will impact Nigeria's diplomatic relationships with the countries involved?
Not in any way. Because the same way we feel ashamed when they talk about Nigerians that have been arrested abroad for, it's the same way every government will cover their eyes in shame if things like this happen. So it's not going to affect our diplomat. No government wants its nationals or citizens to go around the world to commit crime. It's not going to have any negative effect. It will rather show that Nigeria has got to a point where we are serious. It will rather show that Nigeria has got to a point where the Nigerian soil is no longer available for anyone to come into and perpetrate crime. And I also want the ministry, the Foreign Affairs Ministry, the Ministry of Interior, to use this opportunity also to tighten whatever security and diplomatic security that we need to tighten, so that we send a very, very clear message. We do not have any other country aside this country, and we are not going to allow anybody to come in and destroy the reputation, the image, and in fact, our citizen in the name of any crime. So I don't see it having any negative effect on, because some of these nationals, these things that they have come to do here, they can't do it in their own country.
Okay, now I remember, a few weeks ago, or was it months ago, some foreign nationals were arrested, for illegal mining, and now we're seeing this for cybercrime and all that. So do you think that these arrests would in any way deter, cybercrimes or any form of criminal participation by foreigners, considering the rise of, some of these crimes like cryptocurrency-related fraud?
Now, for every arrest that has been made, it's a clear communication. And that's why continuous arrest of all of these criminals will send a very clear message that Nigeria is no longer a breeding place for criminals. People before now, people just think that, because there's no any kind of profiling, Nigeria is just practically open for all, that anybody can come in and continue to commit crime. But if we continue at this pace, is it not a staggering number at one, in one building? So if we continue at this level, we will also come out as a serious-minded nation. And this is one of the things that people like us have continued to talk about. When you are creating image for your country, it's not just about what you do. It's about perception. The way the people perceive us in across the world today, it's like a nation of anything can happen and everything is acceptable. And in philosophy of law, the only law that people tend to abide by are the laws that are strictly enforced. So we must come to a point where we must send a very clear message to whosoever cares to listen that Nigeria is no longer available for any kind of criminal activity. And I know with each arrest, a communication is made.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doon, for speaking to us on this.
It's a pleasure.
Now we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll tell you how Nigeria's inflation rate rose to 34.60% in November 2024. Stay with us. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now, Nigeria's headline inflation rate rose to 34.60% in November 2024, up from 33.88% in October, marking the third consecutive month of rising inflation, according to data released by the National Statistics Agency. Month on month, the inflation rate stood at 2.64%, underscoring ongoing price surges across goods and services. Now, after easing briefly in July and August, inflation resumed its upward trajectory in September, driven by the lingering effects of the naira devaluation and successive petrol price hikes. Now, these factors have intensified the country's worst cost of living crisis in decades, exacerbating hardships in Africa's most populous nation. In response, the Central Bank of Nigeria has implemented 6 interest rate hikes this year, totaling 875 basis points in a bid to rein in inflationary pressures. Now, to help make sense of this, we're joined by Head Corporate Finance and Advisory and Courier Advisory Services Limited, Damola Tao. Hello, Damola. Thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Hi, good afternoon.
All right, now can you speak to us? It's a pleasure to meet you as well, Damola. So can you speak to us on the key drivers behind the persistent rise in Nigeria's inflation rate and how, the structural issues in the economy exacerbates these pressures?
Okay, so speaking to the key inflation drivers, it's good without saying. Number one key driver is the exchange rate volatility. For a country like Nigeria, a lot of pass-through, the instability in the exchange rates, has actually affected a lot of things, down to the price increase. Today, you wake up to an exchange rate of 1,600. You don't know what it's going to be tomorrow. No good currency survives in that kind of thing. And as long as you keep having that instability in your exchange rate, most of the goods are imported, driven by same exchange rate. And that continues to drive the increase in price of goods and commodities generally. So one key driver is the exchange rate volatility. Another driver is the fuel increase. So if you follow the trajectory since the subsidy removal and the consequent increase in price of fuel, prices of goods and commodities have reacted positively in that same trend, and it's actually been a direct causal relationship. So as the fuel price goes up, prices of goods and commodities go up. Nigeria is a friend calls it a generator economy. So a lot of things depend on fuel price. As long as the cost of powering your facility, your equipment increases, your output price too will also increase, and that in turn drives inflation upward.
All right, now we've also seen a lot of, CBN's interest rate hikes. How effective have these hikes been in curbing inflation, and what other monetary or fiscal measures, could implement or could complement these efforts?
Unfortunately, the kind of results that you would expect from the consistent or continuous increase in the hike in rates has not been seen, largely because most of these variables or interest rates does not work in isolation. So there's this general economic belief that so once your inflation, to tame inflation, you keep increasing interest rates. But there's a point at which it no longer achieves that same result. So for example, most of there's a problem of pass-through. I run a farm, or let me put it this way, I run a factory. To get finance to run my business, I get rates at 30%. So that increases my cost of production. Consequently, I increase my cost of selling produce. So if you want to buy, say, cement from me tomorrow, I will factor in that high cost of raising the money into it. And that, in a way, does not tame inflation. So the required result is no longer being achieved with the continuous increase in rates, right? Because there are many variables outside of many variables that drive inflation outside of interest rate. One, if you look at the informal economy, the informal sector, and the way it has responded to also the consequent increase in interest rates. So generally, for example, if you're raising money in the capital markets today, you'll be doing, say, for a shorter instrument, you possibly be in the region of 29%, 30% yield, somewhere where the yield of the treasury bill instruments are. If I'm raising money at 30%, there's no way I will sell, there's no way I will crystallize or capitalize the increase in that cost on the produce. So yes, in the early days, interest rate is expected to tame inflation, but there's an extent to which it can go. And sadly, that explains the outcry in the market. People are now having to buy things at a more expensive price than they would have done that before, right? And the unfortunate reality is that the interest rate, as long as it keeps increasing, cost of produce continues to increase, and then your inflation plays along that same line.
All right. Now, Damola, just before we let you go, can you tell us how do you think Nigeria can leverage technology, infrastructure development, or even policy reforms to boost agricultural productivity and also to achieve long-term food security?
That sounds very beautiful on paper, but in practice, the first thing you have to identify is what is the major driver of inflation. As of today, our food inflation is somewhere around 40%, right? You need to identify what the major driver of inflation is to be able to curb inflation. Picking it from where I stopped on interest rates. The major driver of inflation in today is food. The cost of food produce is increasing, possibly because my background is in agri before I ventured into finance. One major thing that is not being spoken about today is the effect of climate change. So, this year, farmers are possibly having the least cultivation. So we have a lesser land cultivation. Farmers cannot cultivate as much land as they would have cultivated in the past. Why? Because there's an increase in their cost of cultivation. So let's say for 1 hectare of land before, I need like 500,000 to cultivate. Today, I need like 15,000. So I'd rather just cut my quote according to my farmland, right? Number two is the sherry, for example, is something you expect to start seeing in December. It's not anywhere close. June, July, farmers were expecting rainfall. There was no rainfall. All these things kickstart, and all these things continuously increase the price of food produce, and that consequently increases inflation. So the major solution, or the major forward step in reducing inflation in Nigeria is, one, to reduce the cost of buying food.
Okay.
How do you do that? Then there has to be an active role of government, right, in the production. Agri today is input driven, so we train 50,000 farmers, we celebrate, not output. What is the average ton of yam that XYZ number of farmers that we've trained can produce over time before we even go to technology at all? We need to, as much as possible, try to see how we can maximize the potential from our agri being input-driven to being output-driven. I want to celebrate farmers for producing 10,000 tubers of yam, not celebrating for giving them one sachet of fertilizer.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Damola, for your time and also for speaking to us on this. All right, away from that, the Speaker of Nigeria's House of Representatives has expressed optimism that the establishment of a Federal College of Nursing, a University of Education, including a College of Legal Studies in Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria, will help bridge the manpower gap being faced by the state. Now, this was during the commencement of the construction of 4 new educational institutions in Zaria, Kaduna State. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, has more on this story.
Among the 4 projects commissioned are the construction of the Federal College of Nursing, the Federal College of Legal Studies, the College of Education, now converted into a Federal College of Education, and a campus for the National Open University, all located in Zaria, Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria. According to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, these institutions are designed to bridge the manpower gap and provide educational opportunities for individuals who may be unable to attend traditional schools for various reasons.
Kaduna State today has about 3 or 4 key areas where it has manpower shortages. One of them is the issue of health sector. We do not have enough qualified nurses and midwiferys in Kaduna State. We believe that Kaduna State, the northwestern part of Nigeria, require more and more health workers. And that's the reason why we decided, among many other alternatives, to establish a federal college of nursing here in Zaria.
The Emir of Zauzau, while commending the state governor for the timely approval of the land needed for the construction, expressed hope that once completed, the institutions will help solve some of the challenges the state faces.
To be enablers of these mega institutions, it means even these institutions will inspire those young children also to do very well, so that at least they can gain admission into the tertiary institutions without difficulty. And these projects again open opportunities for addressing the labor challenges that they have.
With an estimated budget of about 80 billion naira for the construction of these institutions, the Speaker says that the project is expected to be completed in 1 year and 6 months. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Thank you, Idong. Now, in contemporary society, hustle culture has emerged as a hallmark of youth ambition. Young people are frequently encouraged and pressured to pursue success with unyielding determination. While this mindset fosters drive and financial independence, it also sparks critical conversations about its impact on mental health. Now, the constant push to remain productive around the clock often comes at the expense of rest, self-care, and introspection. News Central's Chidinma Ona takes a closer look at this phenomenon, exploring how young individuals are navigating the fine line between ambition and well-being.
In today's world, the term hustle culture has become a defining feature of modern youth life. Young people are often celebrated and pressured for their relentless pursuit of success. While this culture promotes ambition and financial independence, it has also raised concern about its toll on mental health. Tolulokpe Duncan shares her strategies for managing the dual demands of hustle culture and mental health.
I define success personally. So what I see as success is different from what every other person is seeing as success, and I set the standard for myself so I don't over-push myself, because I believe that without me being sane enough, I might not be able to be productive. So I go all out to do things that are bringing values.
On the streets of Lagos, everyday young people share their personal experiences with the pressure to keep hustling while taking care of their mental health.
My office, they go feel am because they go know say I know they're in a good mood that day. And they already used to me, so they have to manage me. Yeah, they have no option but to manage me. But doesn't mean I'm going to cause nuisance, but they know say, you don't fool ahead. Oh.
It has not been easy, waking up very early as 5, most times 4:30 to wake up, bathe. I have kids, about 3. So imagine trying to take care of them, going to school, then now head out. It has not been easy.
Speaking with Oluwatomise, a mental health advocate with years of experience, she highlights some of the common mental health issues linked to the relentless pursuit of success.
The most common and basic outside diagnosis will be low moods that might lead to depression and, of course, anxiety, which can lead to panic attacks.
As hustle culture continues to dominate the lives of many young people, it is clear that finding balance is not just a personal challenge, but a societal one. In Lagos, reporting for News Central, I am Chidinma Ona.
Coming up, Malian army captures top Islamic State leader, neutralizes fighters in war on terror. We'll have the details after the break. Join us again. Now away from Nigeria, a Malian appeals court has upheld the prison sentence of prominent academic Etienne Fakaba Sissoko, who was convicted earlier this year for criticizing the ruling junta. Sissoko, an economist and university professor, was sentenced in May to 2 years in prison with 1 year suspended for his 2023 book titled Propaganda, Agitation and Harassment, Government Communication During the Transition in Mali. His lawyer, Ibrahim Maruf Sako, confirmed that the appeals court in Bamako upheld the ruling on Monday. Sissoko was charged with harming the reputation of the state, defamation and dissemination of false news, disturbing public peace. Detained since late March, Sissoko remains one of the few dissenting voices in Mali amid a growing crackdown on critics of the military junta, which seized power in coups in 2020 and 2021. In the meantime, Mali's army has announced the capture of a top leader of the Islamic State group Sahel branch and a killing of several fighters during an operation in the eastern part of the country. In a statement on Monday, the military revealed that the operation took place on Sunday in Tagateate, located in Menaka region. The army confirmed the capture of Ahmed Agdita, described as a senior leader of the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara. According to the military, Deta was responsible for numerous violations against civilians and coordinated attacks on Malian army forces. The operation also resulted in the neutralization of several EIGS fighters and the recovery of military equipment, including improvised explosive devices. Now Mali, grappling with political, economic, security crisis, has faced ongoing violence from groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State since 2012. The army says it remains committed to combating terrorism and restoring peace to the region. Mozambique's main opposition leader has threatened to unleash chaos and disorder across the country if the Constitutional Council upholds official results from the October 9 presidential election. Venancio Mondlane, leader of the Podemos party, made the statement on Monday as the council prepares to confirm the results at least 2 weeks before the January inauguration of ruling party candidate Daniel Chapo. Now, according to the Electoral Commission, Chapo won nearly 71% of the vote, while Mondlane came second with 20%. However, Mondlane disputes the results, claiming a separate count showed he secured 53%, with Chapo receiving only 36%. Now, Mondlane has called on his supporters to paralyze the country starting next Monday, the deadline for validating the election results. Now, the situation raises fears of escalating tensions in the southern African nation as the dispute unfolds. In the east of the continent, a Burundian court has sentenced journalist Sandra Muhoza to 1 year and 9 months in prison following her arrest in April. Muhoza, a 42-year-old journalist with the online outlet La Nova Burundi, was detained by the National Intelligence Service in mid-April and later transferred to the Mpimba prison in Bujumbura, Burundi's economic capital. On Monday, the court handed Muhoza a 1 year and 6 month sentence for undermining the integrity of the national territory and an additional 3 months for discrediting the country's image. Her lawyer, Eric Ntibandetse, expressed dissatisfaction with the ruling, stating that Muhoza committed no offense. He confirmed that her family is considering an appeal against the verdict. The case has drawn attention to press freedom in Burundi as concerns grow over the treatment of journalists in the country. Now let's head to Central Africa, where Cameroonian President Paul Biya has called on Central African states to take urgent action to address the region's worsening economic situation, which he described as concerning. Biya made the remarks on Monday in Yaoundé during a special session of the Economic Community of Central African States, ECOWAS. It was the 91-year-old leader's first public appearance since late October, following weeks of absence that fueled speculations about his health. Biya, who has ruled Cameroon for 42 years, highlighted the significant decline in the region's net external assets, warning that immediate measures are needed to reverse the trend. The ECOWAS, comprising 11 member states and aligned with the African Union, focuses on fostering economic cooperation across Central Africa. Now, Biya's call comes at a time when the region faces mounting economic challenges and rising uncertainty. Still ahead, 15-year-old girl kills 2 in U.S. school shooting. We have details after the break. Stay with us. Now, a 15-year-old female student was identified by police as the assailant who opened fire Monday at a school in the U.S. state of Wisconsin, where a fellow student and teacher were killed and the suspected shooter was found dead. Now, according to Sean Barnes, the police chief in Madison, the state capital, now during a news briefing stated that 3 individuals were killed and 7 others were injured at the Abundant Life Christian School, a private Christian school with roughly 400 pupils.
They arrived to find multiple people suffering from gunshot wounds. 3 people, including the shooter, are dead. The shooter has now been identified as 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow, who went by the name Samantha.
The world of sports, President Bola Tinubu has congratulated Super Eagles forward Damola Tao on winning the 2024 CAF Men's African Footballer of the Year award. He also celebrated Super Falcons goalkeeper Chiamaka Nnadozie for being named the CAF Women's Goalkeeper of the Year and the Super Falcons for clinching the Women's National Team of the Year title. The prestigious honors were announced Monday night at the Palais de Congrès in Marrakesh, Morocco. In a statement by his Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, Tinubu praised the athletes as exemplary ambassadors, commending their skill and dedication. He expressed confidence that their achievements would inspire young athletes to pursue excellence. The president reaffirmed his administration's commitment to fostering a nation where talent, determination, and hard work are rewarded with success. The Nigeria Premier Football League body, NPFL, has imposed a 3 million naira fine on Ikorodu City FC and ordered the team to play their next 2 home games behind closed doors. The sanctions followed an incident involving an individual who slapped coach Suleiman Kamil, popularly known as Lama, of Remo Stars after the match day 17 fixture between Ikorodu City and Remo Stars at the Mobolaji Johnson area. The league body has also directed the club to identify and ensure the prosecution of the assailants. Now, these measures underline the NPFL's commitment to maintaining discipline and protecting officials and players within the league. Still talking football, Brazilian football icon Ronaldo has declared his intention to run for president of the Brazilian Football Confederation, aiming to restore the prestige of the national team. The 48-year-old capped 98 times for Brazil, seeks to succeed current CBF president Ednaldo Rodrigues, whose term ends in March 2026. The presidential elections are expected within the year. Brazil, 5-time World Cup champions, have struggled on the global stage since their last triumph in 2002, failing to progress past the quarterfinals in recent tournaments. The 2-time World Cup winner, 1994 and 2002, and the second highest scorer in tournament history with 15 goals, Ronaldo, brings vast football experience. His illustrious career includes stints at Real Madrid, 2 Copa America titles, and an Olympic bronze medal. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. We told you that military says it will reintegrate surrendering bandits as it intensifies its crackdown on Lakurawa in the northwest. We also told you that several insurgents killed as Malian army captures top Islamic State leader. Finally, you heard that Mozambique opposition leader threatens nationwide disorder over disputed poll results. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.